Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. What are your best examples of people cheating the system? I'll start. I work in a typical office building, but today I saw something interesting. Lazy coworker number 11 has been leaving around lunchtime to go to the gym. Except I had to get something out of my car and I saw her in her workout clothes eating out of a tub of fried chicken. I didn't say anything, but she walked back in 15 minutes later saying how sore she would be tomorrow. She works out every day. My boss has a policy that if you're going to work out, you don't have to clock out, which means lazy coworker number 11 essentially gets paid to eat fried chicken in a jogging suit in her minivan. As annoyed as I am, I'm also slightly impressed that she thought of this. So, I work in the luggage claim department for a major airline. All day, I get to hear customers yelling and complaining. What I did is borrow one of the wheelchairs from the airport and sit behind my desk all day long. Customers come in all angry, see me in the wheelchair, realize they're about to yell at a guy who is possibly crippled, and all of a sudden, they turn into the nicest people. Physically, my blood pressure has dropped, and in general, I'm in a pretty good mood most of the time. My boss will often check the date modified on certain files on our server to see if I have updated or even opened a certain file recently. So I have installed a changer utility that allows me to modify the date modified on any file. This comes in most handy when my boss wants to give me weekend assignments. I just come in on Monday morning and change the date modified to Saturday night, and he thinks I was actually doing something for work on Saturday night. I've actually received a lot of kudos for this. I don't feel bad though because my boss is a huge D-head. My wife and I were at a super fancy restaurant in New York City. Reservations not allowed, expect to wait. We get there and are told we would be waiting about 2 hours. No problem, we planned on this. Some guy right after us shook the reservation guy's hand, handing him $200. Next thing I know, I hear table for 2 for Thomas. Thomas being my name, and I asked for a table of 2, I say, that is me. They sit us and we order drinks and apps. 5 minutes later, they say we are the wrong Thomas, but we could stay since we had already ordered. Guess who was the right Thomas? The guy who paid $200 to skip the line. I used to work in a camera store that sold warranties. No matter how the camera broke, they would fix it or replace it under the warranty. The only problem was that the store would ship off the camera to be repaired, sometimes for months, up to 5 times before replacing it. So let's say your battery cover breaks off. You ship it off and 6 weeks later it's back. But it's really a brand defect, so the cover pops off again. They won't replace the whole piece or give you another camera. You're out the camera for months while it's being fixed. They keep selling the defective camera and the warranties. I got tired of effing over customers. I thought it was dishonest. I read the contract myself and found an interesting clause. If the camera was so physically damaged that it was obvious it couldn't be fixed, we could take a pic of it and send that instead. The person immediately got a new camera. When people would come in with a camera with a defect I'd seen 100 times, I'd ask if they just wanted a new one, the next model up without the defect. They'd say yes, and I'd tell them to take it out into the parking lot and run over it with their car. I'd pile the pieces on the counter, take a pic, and give them their new, non-defective camera. I slept fine. I'm from Northern Ireland, and when ordering stuff online, I'd always write Belfast, Ireland on it instead of NI. The post will still get there, as yes, technically Belfast's in Ireland. The post would be directed via the Dublin sorting office instead of coming into the UK routes. 9 times out of 10, the Dublin sorting office would just send it on up to Belfast instead of forwarding it to Royal Mail in London, who would then slap a huge import bill on it, whereas the Southern Irish Postal Service can't charge me import as I'm a UK citizen. The Republic of Ireland couldn't give an F if the Queen's out of pocket over a few quid. My granddad was a Royal Mail postman for years. He taught me that one. For anyone who's confused, if you live in Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, you have to pay UK import tax on stuff you buy from outside the EU. If you write Ireland as your address instead of NI, the parcel will be sent to the Republic of Ireland, different country, same island, who usually forward straight to you instead of sending it back to the UK so you can charge. It's a sneaky way of avoiding import tax. No one will probably see this because there are so many comments, but here it goes. This may not be as much about beating the system as it is about being a persistent enough pain in the A to get what I had worked for. For length's sake, pertinent details only. A professor in my second college refused to grant me the credits for work I'd done in my previous school. She was supposed to, but because she was a bigwig of sorts, no one challenged her in my behalf. My diploma was withheld on graduation day. The secretary smugly told me the dean was too busy to speak with me and that I was out of luck. Now, I knew he was always on the office phone attached to the fax, so I took advantage of that. I went home, found all my original papers, 70 or 80-ish, and the moment his line went free, I began faxing the papers. One after the other, a never-effing ending stream of documents. After sending the 40th or so paper, my mom's phone rang. Picked it up, and the secretary was almost in a panic. She said I was tying up the line, the dean approved my papers, and he said, "Can you just please stop and come get your diploma?" Which I did, on my graduation day. When I quit a job over a decade ago, my A of a boss forgot to submit my termination form. I kept getting paid for over 3 months, and I was a manager making pretty good coin. I knew they'd eventually catch it, and I thought they'd ask for the money back, so I banked every check and didn't spend a cent. So the paychecks eventually stopped after 3+ months, and I waited for the call or letter asking for the money. It never came. 2 years later, I used the money to buy my hot tub. Now my A gets massaged by bubbling water thanks to my incompetent ex-boss. One of the best cheats ever. Know how they have the 3-month free premium channel thing when you switch TV providers? You can get that without switching by calling up your provider and asking to speak to a supervisor and spinning a yarn about how you're unsure since X company will offer you the premium channels. The supervisor's job is to ensure customer satisfaction, and they get in trouble if people leave the service under their watch. As such, you will often get a price cut or free premium service. Cox Cable, 5 years, free HBO, Starz, Cinemax, and Showtime. I used to work at Walden Books back in the day. There was a dude who used to routinely come in and buy bargain books. He would then go home and come back another time with the bargain books with the stickers ripped off to return them and claim he didn't have a receipt. We would then have to give him store credit for the price that the books rang up as, always more than the discounted bargain sticker. He would then come back at a later time and use the store credit to buy full-priced books. He would then come back one final time and return the books with a receipt for cash. It used to irritate me when he would do this because I knew what he was doing and there wasn't anything I could do about it. Interestingly enough, this very same man would become a supervisor of mine at another place I worked at later and was a pretty cool guy. I never mentioned to him that I knew about his scheme, but even if I told him, he would have given 0 Fs. I used to work at a restaurant that would track our tip percentage, but not too much else of our activity. The amount of tables we got per night would be based on our tip percentage, and there was also a regional leaderboard. We were allowed to buy food from the restaurant, but we couldn't ring ourselves in, which led me and my friend Jim to our greatest discovery. We would buy a side of mashed potatoes from each other, a $2-ish side, and pay with a credit card. We would then tip each other $10 to $12, a 500 to 600% tip. We would do this every so often, not enough to be ridiculous, and within a few months, we were the top servers in the entire region with an average tip percentage of over 30%, thereby granting us some kind words from management and the most tables per night of the whole restaurant. Told to me by a master sergeant I worked with. He worked in an old, run-down set of offices on base. They had crappy linoleum floors, and the airmen in the building spent hours every week mopping and polishing the floors because, hey, free labor. A buddy of his worked in a nicer building and mentioned that their building had carpet, but it was in terrible shape. They were supposed to get new carpeting in a few weeks. The first NCO called up base civil engineering since they maintained the buildings. He asked to have carpet installed in his building. They told him that the command that owned the building had to pay to have carpets installed, and his command did not do that. He asked about his friend's building since they were in the same command. He was told that replacing carpet was different. Once it was installed, replacements came out of the base's budget, not the command's. When the carpet was replaced at the newer building, he took a bunch of airmen over and got the old, worn-out carpet out of the dumpsters. They spent a weekend spreading out in their building. A couple of weeks later, he called up civil engineering, had an inspector come out, and pointed out their carpets were worn out. He had new carpets 3 months later. Any bureaucracy breeds workers able to survive in a bureaucracy. In the military, it is a different kind of money to have carpet installed versus carpet replaced. My favorite is a personal example, actually. I work at GameStop. Employees are able to check out any pre-owned games for 4 days at a time as long as we have at least 4 of that game in stock. We're a big store, so that's quite a few. Now, if we keep them longer than 4 days, we're supposed to pay for them. The solution? GameStop's return policy. Since it's pre-owned, I can just go to a different GameStop and return it for a full refund after I buy it for being late. So I've got to have the cash up front to cover the late fee, but I can get it right back the same day. Yeah, the 7-day return policy applies to everyone. It's nice to be able to check out a game without having to have the cash up front though. If I keep it too long, then I just hold on to it till my paycheck and buy/return it. At my work, I go through the accounting department's wastebasket for any payments that came in envelopes that make it through the mail without stamps being canceled. Free stamps. I put the stamps on packages that I need to send at the post office. Another thing I do. This may not count as exactly cheating the system, but I have my money in multiple credit union checking accounts that earn a special high interest rate. I basically use them as savings accounts because I already have a regular checking account at a bank near me. With these special interest earning checking accounts, you have to make at least 10 or 12 purchases with a debit card a month. So that is about 34 debit card purchases I have to make every month. I don't make that many purchases in a month, so what I do is I stop off at a gas station maybe 2 times a week and use each debit card twice at the pump and purchase $1 of gas per debit card. When I was a kid, there was this Hostess snack cake promotion where you got a game piece that was potentially a winner if you scratched off the correct 3 out of 6 spots. I used to hold it up to a bright light bulb so I could see through the spots to see which ones were the correct ones to scratch off. I didn't pay for a single fruit pie that summer. This is really petty, but I used to scam free drinks or McNugget sauces from various fast food places. What I would do was make an order at the drive-thru, then pay for it at the first window. Then, when I got to the pickup window, I would act like I forgot to order a drink or nugget sauces, and then offer to pay right there and hold out a credit card. This act throws a giant monkey wrench in the well-oiled fast food drive-thru machine, and the employee will often just give it to you for free just to get you out of there. You have to appear sincere, and you must use a credit card because employees will gladly take and pocket any cash you offer them. It works best when they are really busy. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and the comments. See you in the next video.